Hello and welcome to another MediaCast here for the Funkit Pod. It's the end of the week. This means we're looking into what happened in the media over the past week. In this case, maybe even over the past 1.5, 2-ish weeks, as this past week we were off with the MediaCast because it was a long weekend here in Thailand. And quite frankly, I went to the beach. You can see tan, I guess, sunburn, lots of sunburn. But now back in action, so let's talk all things media. And as you're probably used to it by now in the MediaCast, it's not always fun and games, because just life isn't always fun and games. We're trying to keep it on the lighter side, mostly though, but sometimes there are just things that we need to talk about. And I discussed it, I think, 2 or 3 episodes ago in the MediaCast, what happened in Myanmar, right, with the media censorship and shutdowns and so on. And this just, of course, keeps happening. And when you look in the media in Myanmar right now, at least the media that is still allowed to operate, which is, of course, under control by the military, there's only one English-speaking news outlet that's state-owned that's still operating. And they're talking about, I don't know, prices of food or whatever. So there's no mention of course, the coup or whatever is happening. We've seen the most deadly night in Myanmar since the coup took place in regards to the amount of people dying in the protests and the army coming in, being like involved, disbanding it via force. I think there were more than 30 people died in one night reported. So you can imagine that unreported. There are even more people that lost their lives there. So that's, of course, very concerning, right? Because obviously, the state, the government right now, the military doesn't want anything to get out. So it's very hard to get news there. As you mentioned back then, they're trying to censor, shutting down the internet and so on. People who, if you get caught using a VPN, you could go to jail for a very, very long time as well. So I talked to one of my former students who is a Burmese and who lives in Myanmar, and that's basically what she said. She said, well, right now I can still access the internet, but if they find out that I write something negative about the government or try to raise any kind of awareness, or if I would use a VPN and they would find out that I use a VPN to connect to the internet to access information that they ban, for example, then I'm in trouble and I could actually go to jail, which is, of course, insane to hear, right? So all thoughts still to the people in Myanmar. What also happened there was that apparently a Myanmar soldier took to TikTok, the #1 platform for political messages, and he pointed like the gun into the camera of the phone, and he's like, what did he say? I will shoot whoever I see, trying to intimidate potential protesters, of course, who are using social media still to organize. Yeah, great. TikTok, of course, said, don't worry, we are monitoring the situation. Yeah, but of course, they're not doing much. The Onion actually had a great article on this, with a headline, TikTok assures users who are worried about Myanmar, they are monetizing the situation very well. So that's, of course, again, very concerning. I urge you to check what's happening in Myanmar, try to follow the news. It's interesting if you're not in Myanmar to just see how this is possible in these days. And if you're somewhat related, or to just, I know, if you're someone with empathy, you will feel saddened. And well, yeah, try to follow, try to spread the word, let people know what's happening. Because quite frankly, especially in Western news outlets, I believe there's still not enough talked about what is happening in Myanmar right now. If you want to know more, also follow the hashtag what is happening in Myanmar, just like what we have here in Thailand, what is happening in Thailand. The same hashtag for Myanmar, what is happening in Myanmar. I urge everybody, please check it out. It's very crucial right now, crucial time for Myanmar, and we should all be aware. And if possible, of course, do our part to get more eyes on there so that maybe something's going to happen. Speaking of media censorship and so on, let's talk about China for a second as well. China, there's a new report out that says that apparently China's media, how they call it, repression, also extends into Hong Kong. Who would have thought that, right? Great report. I would never have guessed it. But yeah, that's of course also concerning, not surprising, but still concerning. Also, right now, China is, of course, still cracking down more and more on people who are voicing their concern or their displeasure with the country and the government. And they even forced TikTok to kick off an influencer who mentioned the word Taiwan. She was saying, I'm going to the Taiwanese store or something to buy some pineapple. And then China is like, hey, you said Taiwan. That's not Taiwan. It's China. One China. Kick her off. And she's gone from TikTok as far as I'm concerned, as far as I read. Interesting. Also, then still the bad with the journalists, because China doesn't allow Western journalists to travel freely and to report on anything they're supposed to report on. So now Western countries, they also take action, of course. The latest country here being Australia. Australia said like, hey, we're not using any state media content that comes out of China. So the Chinese state media sends out content like, hey, use this content to report on what's happening in China right now. And Australia said like, nah, we're not doing this. We don't trust you. We don't believe you. We're not doing this anymore. Speaking of Australia, Aussie. Okay. Speaking of Australia, the bargaining code is still being discussed. Of course, we talked about this a few times here. So the bargaining code, when Google was the first one to strike some deals, right? With the new Google feature, their showroom, showcase, newsroom, whatever they call it. And we talked about that Facebook actually was calling a bluff by Australia, saying, yeah, sure, you try. We don't even want your news on our platform. And so apparently that worked to some extent, meaning that the government kind of amended the bargaining code, so changed something so that Facebook is kind of happy-ish. Google already paid, other outlets doing the same. And so now there's like apparently a consensus, which means Apple, Google, and so on pay a certain amount to those publishers. By the way, those are not all publishers. If you're interested to read more on this, I just shared an article on my personal Twitter at Sayfun, SAYFUN. It's by, I think, I forgot, sorry, CNET, I guess. That explains who's actually getting paid for. So it's not you or me, it's just, of course, big platforms that are actually corporations with turnover of more than 150,000 Aussie dollar per year, I think. So it's only the big conglomerates that actually get paid. And so it's like just a shifting of money from Google to Rupert Murdoch, for example. We don't really benefit from it, I believe. But yeah, well, at least they figured something out. Let's see how long they're gonna be happy, or if there's some amendments be made once again. All right, that's the countrywide or country news section. Now let's talk about the social media news parts here. And of course, you have to start with everybody's darling first, right? Clubhouse. There have been a few interesting things happening. One, of course, Clubhouse hacks, right? We've read this a few times over the last few weeks, that Clubhouse streams, the audio streams, have been hacked and leaked. So for example, there was a Chinese hacker who apparently hacked into the Clubhouse streams and just leaked them online. Apparently then there was a third party that developed an app for Android, thank you, where you could just log in if you have an account, and then you can just browse the streams. And this got hacked apparently. So yeah, Clubhouse safety, privacy, what's up? For an app that has like so many investors now, I would expect better, but I mean, maybe they didn't think about it. Let's think about it. Let's make it more private and make it better. Also interesting, and I think that shows where Clubhouse is heading. They're kind of having an influencer program now, which is interesting, right? So if you are a wannabe influencer, or if you are someone that has lots of things to say, and you're lucky enough, you might be appointed as an influencer on Clubhouse, a VIP moderator, so to speak, get like special privileges, and they will try to help you to be a Clubhouse influencer. Monetization everywhere. Awesome. Let's see when it will get annoying. Okay, what else do we have? Klaus, Bill Gates was on Clubhouse, and he was talking, and he was saying that he actually still prefers Android over iPhones because the developers on Android are just more flexible, and new things are coming out more frequently. It's easier to develop for Android, of course, open source and so on. So he prefers Android over iPhone, and he said it while he was on Clubhouse. Another thing that I read, I'm not sure if it's true or not. Apparently, Elon Musk said he would talk to Putin on Clubhouse, so he extended an invitation, I don't know, to the Kremlin. Then the Kremlin joined Clubhouse, and then apparently Elon Musk ghosted them. I'm not sure if it's really true, but it sounded like a cool gossip, so I wanted to share it once. Okay, but enough clubhousing, right? If you're on Clubhouse, hit me up though. It's still like here in Thailand, I'm still missing out on the Clubhouse fun a little bit, simply because the groups that I follow, the rooms that I follow, they are mostly based in the US or back home in Europe, and so the time difference is just too big, just doesn't make much sense, and my Thai isn't just that good so that I could follow all the Thai rooms here. So if you have any suggestions, please do shout out. If you also, and now switch to another platform, if you have suggestions in regards to who to follow on TikTok, keep it to yourself. TikTok. So we talked about TikTok already in regards to the Chinese influencer being banned from TikTok. Then we saw like the Myanmar soldier using TikTok to intimidate the protesters. But we also see other news coming out. For example, TikTok was like, hey, we empower everybody. We empower, for example, plus-sized women to share their content. But then apparently they took down some of the content by those plus-sized women. Why? Well, that's been in the news a few times already. Apparently, the moderation algorithm or manual, who knows, decides like which content fits a certain target audience. And if they decide, algorithm, manual, whatever, this isn't fitting for a target audience, then they apparently hide it. And that's very interesting and also rather concerning, I believe. So this was in the news and doesn't really speak for TikTok, in my opinion. In order to combat all the negative news, TikTok launched a Q&A feature for TikTok creators to engage with the viewer questions now more. So they're trying to get more engagement on the platform, seeing how this Clubhouse thing is now taking off, right? Where people just talk to each other. Now TikTok, of course, also sees the need that, hey, we need something to make people talk, engage with each other, of course. By the way, the lady that got kicked off TikTok is called Fanny Liu. Sorry for mispronouncing it, for mentioning the Taiwanese pineapples. What we've also seen popping up right now, lots of Tom Cruise deepfakes. I mean, Tom Cruise has always been the subject of deepfakes, but lately those Tom Cruise deepfakes seems to be a trend on TikTok, and they're really good. So you could think it's Tom Cruise. Maybe it was a Tom Cruise at Oprah was a deepfake too. Was it at Oprah? Oprah, right? Or maybe he wants to think it was a deepfake. Maybe it's just always Tom Cruise and it's not even a deepfake, and it's just such a great method actor. This is just for fun, of course, those news right now, but it just shows that creating those deepfakes isn't that hard anymore, and so be aware of the content that you're consuming, obviously. What now I find personally confusing, interesting, both, is some news that came out of Twitter, but it all not only encompassed Twitter, but basically encompassed the whole internet. But let's start with Twitter first. So Twitter now announced that they will have paid super follows, so that you can charge for your tweet and things like this. So more power, more money to influencers. I'm sure Twitter takes a certain amount of that though. Otherwise, I mean, they won't just give it to you just because you're nice, probably. I mean, Jack Dorsey, probably a very nice guy. If you own Square. By the way, Square just bought Tidal. That means JC now works for Jack Dorsey. Interesting move by Square. If you don't know Square, POS. I'm just thinking while I'm saying this. Please don't misunderstand it. I don't say Jack Dorsey POS. I'm saying Square. SquareUp.com is the URL, I believe. Square offers like point of sales systems, applications that you can use if you're running a business and if you're like working in like actual physical or like virtual sales too. If you're selling stuff, you can use Square. So Square is a financial application, and they just bought Tidal. So yeah, JC now works for Jack Dorsey. Back to the super follows, interesting, or of course as an influencer. But again, I'm guessing they would keep a commission or something like this. So now the interesting part that I mentioned. So Jack Dorsey actually, he just created an NFT for his first tweet ever. The first tweet ever from 2006. It says like setting up my Twitter, like TWTTR, that's how they spell it back then. And so what's an NFT, right? A non-fungible token. That's a good question. Google it. What's an NFT? I had to, I mean, it's been around for a while, but it's just taking off as of late, I believe, like that people make NFTs out of everything or for everything and then buy NFTs for everything, like for NBA shots, for example, for digital art, for tweets, apparently. So I found this, again, pretty interesting, and that people actually bidding for an NFT on this tweet. So this non-fungible token thing is taking off. Apparently people, even though we have the pandemic, people have too much money. But it's like a collecting thing, right? So while you could, for example, you can screenshot that tweet, right? And then you have it on your computer too, but you want to be the ownership over it, basically, right? And so you trying to have the NFT for whichever digital art you want, and then maybe later on you could be trading it, right? If it gets more money, or you're just collecting it, just like physical art, you just keep collecting it. You look at it like, hey, that's cool, that's mine. Yeah. Even though you could copy it, you could take a screenshot, whatever. You could have a picture of the Mona Lisa on your computer, and you're like, yeah, that's a cool picture, but you wouldn't be owning it. So with the NFT, you basically own the digital art, digital whatever it is. And so you say, that's mine, that's cool. Maybe it makes you feel better, like as a collector, for example. Maybe you want to invest in digital art via NFTs and then hope that the demand increases and then you can sell it again later on. For example, trading art, right? Interesting development. There's going to be more on NFTs as we move on, because I'm going to introduce NFTs in my class next week. So I'm not going to talk too much about it right now, afterwards though, because I find it a very, very interesting concept. All secured via, or all handled via blockchain, right? So this is, I think, very interesting usage via the blockchain in regards to Ethereum, which also shows that you shouldn't only be looking at Bitcoin when it comes to blockchain technology, because there's so much more to it. So look into NFTs more soon on this channel. Oh, last NFT thing. The super hardcore rock band Kings of Leon, whose sex is on fire, and that's the only song I know from Kings of Leon, are about to release an album as an NFT, and they're going to be the first band ever to do so, which is interesting. It includes like specials, like I think VIP passes in case they're ever going to be concerts again, backstage, I know, footage and whatnot. So interesting move here. First band to release NFTs for the album Kings of Leon, or who releases an album as an NFT, the Kings of Leon. Okay, now since we talk about new stuff already, there's also a new social media platform in town. Yay, another one. And since invite-only apps that only work on iPhone right now are in, what's the mindset of those investors, by the way? Yeah, it's a platform with limited audience. Cool. I mean, I get the invite-only thing, make it like more exclusive. So you're like, I want to be on there, but why restrict it to a platform? Why not restrict it like, why not? Well, I shouldn't say that, then you steal my idea. Why not have other restrictions to make it like, could be Android, could be iPhone, but then have other restrictions and limitations to keep it like invite-only and to keep it special. Anyways, an invite-only app called Dispo is out there right now, which is about pictures. So it's basically Instagram, but different, meaning there's no messaging and so on. So it's only about the pictures. There's no following suggestions, so you have to actually find people that you want to follow. And if you take a picture, then you cannot edit it. It adds a random filter to it, I believe, like the Dispo filter. And then it's basically like back then you took a picture with your actual camera, and then you have to develop the film. You're like, yeah, and that's basically what Dispo is doing to you now. It's booming. It already, I don't know, I just read they had like a 20 million investment, but probably by now already way more. Because again, invite only rocks right now. So if you're planning an app, make it invite only. Maybe I should. Okay, let's talk about this in a few weeks from now. So Dispo is kind of booming right now. Lots of a few celebs on there, at least a few that I've seen. I think Gigi Hadid is on there, for example, who likes it a lot. Other people in the modeling world as well, apparently. So yeah, let me know what you think about Dispo and just those invite-only apps that are booming right now because we all want to feel special and then somehow we all get invites anyways. Almost at the end already. One or two more things that I want to say actually, maybe three. Oh God, I'm lying to you already. I'm sorry. Okay, so the one thing that I wrote down in my notes like back then a few weeks ago, and I forgot to mention it all the time. The new Matrix movie coming this year. Isn't it awesome? I think that's awesome. I'm gonna be excited. Almost the whole old staff is back, which is cool. So yeah, I just hope the story makes somehow sense because let's be honest, the last Matrix 3, was really bad. So I hope but the ending was kind of final. Let's see. I hope it makes sense. I can't wait for it. I was a big fan of Matrix 1. Matrix 2 wasn't that. Matrix 1 was awesome. Matrix 3, we forget about that. The Matrix was just awesome. So I'm looking forward to the newest version. Let me know what you think about this. Also, I, of course, always try to have like at least one recommendation here in the videos. Last time I recommended a podcast. This time I recommend a YouTube video. The YouTube video is called Plastic Pills. Plastic Pills explains media study related topics rather nicely. Like for example, Marxism and the media, which is very nicely explained in Plastic Pills. Or they talked about Marshall McLuhan too, I believe. They talk about Sean Baudrillard, which I did also before. So check out my video first, of course, and then you go to Plastic Pills to check out theirs on Baudrillard and hyperreality and so on. And they have a nice example about hyperreality. I think talk about like The Bachelor and things like this. So that's quite nice. Well done. So I really like this channel. I appreciate it and suggest it if you're into media studies and check out Plastic Pills. All right, so there's just one more thing to say for me right now, because as you know, at the end of my videos, podcast, and so on, the media cast, I usually discuss a thing or two that I discussed with my classes before. Today it's going to be a bit shorter because there will be a longer form video coming, a separate or a podcast coming, a separate one to this one. So we discussed representation and political correctness in our past week's class. And when it comes to political correctness, it's hard to discuss because I realized that it might also be just a generational thing, at least a little bit. But of course, it also depends like how you grow up, right? So luckily, lots of my students are very sarcastic, which I appreciate. So it was rather easy to say, okay, what is political correctness and why is it there? And it's like, okay, kind of the definition by those people that are for political correctness kind of makes sense until it's taken to an extreme, right? Which is happening a lot in order to cancel others. If you're not woke enough, you get canceled and so on. Don't cancel this podcast, I just started it. Then we discussed also different viewpoints. For example, the Jordan Peterson point of view, and that's where we will have a long form video coming soon. So we discussed the Jordan Peterson point of view. We discussed other points of view as well. And of course, we try to have our own point of view when it comes to political correctness. And it's interesting to see for me, because I've been in academics for a while now, and there seems to be right now a kind of like turning back, or like at least like maybe not completely back, not a 360, no, not a 180. I am bad at math. Not a 180, but maybe like more like a 90 degrees turn, like a turn somewhere else into some other direction, because most of the students discussing things with me, they weren't really for the idea of PC, while years prior, more students were like, yeah, actually PC is not a bad idea because then we're all nice to each other and so on. But now the current batch was like, yeah, everyone's offended about everything all the time. It's really annoying. It's not fun anymore and so on. So is that just a glitch right now? Is that another trend that we're seeing? That's something I will be discussing in that long form video that will be coming up soon. So if you have any thoughts on PC, political correctness, what's your stance? What do you think? Is it important? Is it necessary? Is it just too much? You don't need it. Just be yourself and so on. I'd love to hear your opinions, thoughts in the comments or on social media. Just hit me up anywhere, maybe even on Clubhouse. We will have Clubhouse rooms soon where we discuss media studies, by the way. So if you're into this, keep an eye out. I will shout out once this is launched, of course, once our room is set. And then we can hopefully have this those discussions continuously and regularly on Clubhouse, and maybe I'll also see pictures of that on Dispo. Until then, take care, stay safe, and I hope to see and hear and listen to you soon.